In the 1920s, prohibition became law. This had been a long goal of progressives, starting with the temperance movement, which was trying to limit the amount of alcohol people drank. Prohibition was the legal restriction against it. This stems in part from an effort to force immigrants to act in that middle-class white society and force them to assimilate into that culture. It was a way to preserve the American culture, at least the dominant white society of American culture. During World War I, the propaganda against Germans, this 100% American propaganda, also helped because Germans tended to be the major beer and alcohol producers within the country. So by hurting the Germans, they were actually promoting that 100% American effort. So the 18th Amendment was passed in the 1920s, prohibiting the sale and distribution of alcohol, though not the consumption of it. And whether one complied with this amendment or not largely depended on class, religious, and ethnic identity. Lower and working class people tended to just disregard the law. There wasn't enough manpower to enforce it anyways. So the lower and middle class, or the lower and working class, simply they found areas, typically a speakeasy, or they made their own alcohol, and they just disregarded the law. The middle class progressives, they were temperate anyways. They didn't need prohibition to keep them from drinking, and the wealthy could drink all they wanted because they're wealthy, and according to social Darwinism, they had proved that they were better bred and they didn't need restrictions on them. So what ends up happening is when there is a demand, there will be people that fill that demand, and this is where speakeasies come in, these underground bars. And organized crime found a new revenue source. Now remember, people like Al Capone and the gangsters didn't arise because of prohibition. They already existed. What prohibition did was provide them with another revenue source and made them even more powerful. There's not enough manpower, there's not enough police and detectives to fight all of the people that wanted to drink the alcohol, not enough to arrest all of the criminals that were violating the prohibition. So this proved ultimately to be a failure. And it's one of the reasons why eventually progressivism falls out of favor, because prohibition was one of their great success stories, and it ultimately proved to be a catastrophe. The 21st Amendment in the 1930s ends prohibition for a number of different reasons, the crime and lack of revenue among them.